speech is power.
The fight against free speech is escalating rapidly. It is worldwide. It's not just in China, where they're going around arresting people, going door to door, arresting people who have Facebook on their phones and sending them to concentration camps. At the same time, you've got Apple Music censoring songs about Tiananmen Square massacre, doing it to help that same Chinese government that is arresting people who happen to have Facebook on their phone, sending them to a concentration camp. And Apple says, that's fine. We'll also ban any music about Tiananmen Square. And then Julian Assange is drug out in handcuffs today by the British government, working with the American intelligence agency, just as they did against President Trump. And so I want to go to the hearing yesterday where Ted Cruz asks Twitter if Mother Theresa is hate speech. Are they hate speech, Twitter? Are they hate speech, Facebook? He puts up a meme with a quote from Mother Teresa about abortion. Here's the clip with Ted Cruz asking the very uncomfortable and inconvenient question to the protectors of decency, Twitter and Facebook. Here's that clip.
We know that Senator Blackburn's post was pulled down. Let me ask a comparable question, because it's not just political, it's also ideological. There have been multiple instances of, in particular, pro-life groups being disfavored. For example, here is a tweet that says, abortion is profoundly anti-women, and it's a quote from Mother Teresa. And this tweet was blocked. Now it is fairly remarkable that Mother Teresa is now deemed hate speech. Do either of you agree with the proposition that Mother Teresa is issuing hate speech?
Silence.
Is this hate speech?
I can't think of what to say.
If I could take a step back from that, I believe that that account is from the Susan B. Anthony list.
Correct.
And Susan B. Anthony is currently an advertiser in good standing on our platform. Last promoted.
Mr. Manji, you're very good at not answering questions. Is this hate speech?
Every tweet has context behind it, and every decision that's made has context.
Tweet. There's no more context.
I can tell you that we have actioned accounts on both sides of this debate, including tweets by pro-choice groups who have said that everybody who's pro-life is misogynistic. There are many pro-life groups that advertise on our platforms currently in good standing, and advertisers across the board, whether they're selling soap or NFL, sometimes have advertisements that are caught in our systems. Well, and the reason why,
and that is an area we'll be following up as well. So I appreciate your saying there are groups on the pro-choice side that you have blocked, and this committee is going to attempt to understand and quantify if there is a disparate treatment or not. If there's not a disparate treatment, that'll benefit Twitter to show that you're being even-handed. The anecdotes we're aware of are consistently on one side of the aisle.
Okay, it isn't even a question as to whether or not they ban as much speech on one side of one issue as they do on the other side of that same issue. They are the public square. And that was a brilliant question by Ted Cruz. And as he pointed out, they don't want to give a straight answer. They're prevaricating around that bush, if you will. But the solution, unfortunately, is not to say that you're going to censor people evenly on both sides. We don't need them to police speech. Marco Rubio needs them to police speech. He wants them to police speech. They are going to push a particular agenda for the government, for these same intelligence agencies that are lying and manipulating us. They're going to push certain information and purge other information. And we look at the 800 people that got shut down 2 months after they shut down InfoWars and Alex Jones on the social media accounts. They were not all conservative. They were not all Trump. The majority were. But I don't want to see anybody shut down. Here's the common thread of what they were shutting down. Coming after people like Free Thought Project or people who are hard left, people who are libertarian, people who are left, they shut down as well. People who opposed what? The military-industrial complex. The same people that are working together to try to run President Trump out of office, the same people working together to arrest Julian Assange, and who knows what they're going to try to do to him. It's those people who don't want you talking about the surveillance state, the police state, the military-industrial complex, the foreign wars, the false flags that they use to start these foreign wars. That's the common denominator here. And the bottom line is, Ted Cruz has 3 solutions that he proposed. Amending Section 2030 of the Communications Decency Act that basically says we're going to leave you guys alone because you're not publishers. Well, they are publishers, and they've admitted that they're publishers. And now you've got Apple out there saying, we're going to be the publishers. We're going to decide, we're going to reward and pay for this. We're going to, Facebook is saying we're going to curate this. We're going to promote quality news, and we're going to purge things that we say are not quality news. So they're sitting there as an editor. They are publishers. And so this whole Section 2030 of the Communications Decency Act is a dodge, number one. So, yeah, do that, fine. And he also talks, number 2, antitrust measures to address big tech's dominant status on the internet. Well, fine. They have monopoly status. But, folks, antitrust regulation has never been very effective. Do we still have AT&T? Yes. Do we still have AT&T as one of the biggest 2 or 3 phone providers in the world? Yes, we do. I thought we broke them up. No. I thought we got rid of Standard Oil, and I thought we broke the power of David Rockefeller. Well, no, actually, no. They will find ways around that. And quite frankly, these people who are running this in government, and it's the politicians who work with and for the military-industrial complex, people like Marco Rubio. His concern, again, it was right after Alex Jones had been removed, when Alex Jones confronted Marco Rubio, who was running a hearing about social media censorship. You would think that they would take the biggest, highest profile person that had been censored and ask him to testify in Congress, but no, they didn't bother to do that. When Alex Jones confronted him, Alex was punished further, and Marco Rubio pretended not to know who Alex Jones was, until later on he admitted that he was lying. But in the hearing, the concern of Marco Rubio was not about your free speech, each and every one of you, Mr. and Mrs. America. It wasn't about your free speech being taken. That wasn't his concern. His concern was that they weren't going to do things for the Chinese government, that they were going to work for the American government, right? Because, I mean, it's the American government that set them up in all this stuff, right? We go back to the late 90s when the internet became practical. And again, the internet was the brainchild of DARPA, a psychologist. I keep confusing this. A psychologist who worked for DARPA, J.C.R. Licklider. He called it the Intergalactic Computer Network. That was his idea. But it was a tool of psychological control. It only became practical in the late 1990s. And so when it became practical, you had In-Q-Tel, which was created by the CIA. It was a venture capital firm to fund the little shills like Zuckerberg who would run this operation for them. So they could put this out there for free, get all of you to come in and shut the doors and turn on the gas. Turn the gas on free speech. And then you had these other venture capital firms that just coincidentally had people sitting on the board from the NSA and so forth. So they were right up front there with their venture capital firms. And then they had these other people out there. So this whole thing was set up by the government to do this. So you think it's going to go away because we got antitrust regulation? Addressing potential cases of fraud and deception, that's number 3 from Cruz's solutions. No, the solution has already been given to us. 1946, Marsh Roses, Alabama. Even if the public square is privately owned, that was a coal town. They owned the entire town. They told a woman she couldn't hand out religious tracts. She fought them to the Supreme Court and won. They said, even if the public square is privately owned, you can't take away people's free speech any more than you can steal their car, steal their home. Welcome back. We just had the clip from Ted Cruz where he has executives from Facebook and Twitter. He shows a meme where Mother Theresa says, abortion is profoundly anti-women. He says, is that hate speech? And there's silence from them. Of course it is speech that they hate. They want to support abortion. They will shut down people if you have a woman who says, a transgender man is not a woman. Oh, you're banned for life. And they look at that and they say, well, we haven't taken everything that people who are pro-life have said down, so we're good guys. No, you shouldn't be taking anything down. And I'm not happy with the solutions coming from anybody in the Republican Party. There's been absolute silence about that Supreme Court decision going back to 1946. Why is that? Because it would shut everything down. If you don't want to use social media to control speech, and people on both the left and the right want social media to control speech, in the same way that Marco Rubio gets Zuckerberg in there and says, you're not going to do what China says. You're going to do what we say, right? And they'll come in, they say, well, you're not going to do what the Democrats say. You're going to do what the Republicans say, or vice versa. That's the real fight. They don't want the control structure to go away. It's the American government that put the control structure there in the very first place, as I pointed out. They just want to be the ones controlling it. And it's that attitude which has sold out the freedoms of the American people for a couple of generations. The idea that I don't care if government is tyrannical as long as I'm the boss, because I'll be a benevolent dictator. That's how I'm going to run this. Yeah, right. Okay. Well, let's just say that it's the public square, that their business model is a monopoly. Let's acknowledge the fact that they were put in business by the military-industrial complex, but we're not going to do business that way anymore. And if we allow the military-industrial complex to be the real government in this country, to continue to be the real government in this country, as they have been for the last couple of decades, we're done. Yeah, you can have some temporary victories. You can lock up some of your opponents like Brennan and Clapper maybe. But if you leave that structure there, President Trump, you have betrayed the American people and yourself as well. You're going to be hung by those that you try to appease. And so let's take a look at how this is working its way out. We've had now the Babylon Bee Founders cartoon was identified as hate speech. He says this is the third time that a Facebook property has tried to silence me without any justification. And this is Ford. He is a guy who, he said the first time was for a comic that defended traditional marriage. That is hate speech, see? That's what Booty Gay has been coming after Mike Pence and President Trump for a week. He said, you Christians, you hateful hypocrites, you have come after the LGBT people, he says, and actually, no, they didn't. But he says, just because these guys support traditional marriage and because they support the pro-life, you're a bunch of hateful hypocrites. Because President Trump is an adulterer. And as I pointed out a couple of days ago, I don't know. For me, Christianity is defined by the Bible. I don't know where Booty Gay gets his Christianity. Well, actually, I do. It's kind of the same way that Thomas Jefferson operated. Thomas Jefferson went through and he cut out things that he didn't like, and so does Booty Gay. And for Booty Gay, it's kind of uncomfortable because you go down and look at lists of sins, right? Right next to adultery is homosexuality in my Bible. Oh, but adultery is bad, homosexuality is good. Because he's been in a homosexual marriage for 2 years. Well, President Trump's been married to Melania for 14, whatever. I mean, but, he doesn't have any sin that he has to worry about, right? It's simply legalism. And it's legalism where he writes the rules. No, actually, nobody's going to be justified by their obedience. We're all sinners. We're all dependent on God's grace. And for him to throw stones at President Trump in that glass house when he is in an open, continuing relationship. I mean, we look at the gay people. They have gay pride. Do you have gay pride parades? Do you have adultery pride parades? Or take a look at the other sins that are there, right? Theft. Do you have people who have committed theft? Do they have parades in their honor, proud of the fact that they've committed theft or murder or adultery? No, the only sin that's listed in that list that people are proud of is homosexuality. They're proud of their sin. No repentance there. That's something they need to think about. But, of course, if Booty Gay wants to create a new religion and then be have praise showered on him by conservative press, by libertarian press. Oh, look, he's talking about faith. Well, I don't know what religion he's talking about. Doesn't bear any relation to it. But here's the thing. He's entitled to his own religion. He's entitled to his own relationships if he wants. Nobody's trying to lock him up. He's the one trying to lock up our speech. He's the one who hypocritically defends the murder of infants and then talks about President Trump's adultery. That's the hypocrisy of this. Jefferson edited the Bible to create his own religion or whatever. Yeah, I don't like this, I like that. It comes up with this Jefferson Bible. But Jefferson tolerated the free exercise of religion. And the LGBT tyrants, their new religion is not tolerant. It's every bit as intolerant as Islam. And they're going to use that to shut down your free speech and what you do, to call you hypocrites. Be careful. Be careful using that label, booty gay. Anyway, this guy who writes for the Babylon Bee said, Facebook shut me down once for defending traditional marriage. The second time was when I was running the Babylon Bee and they tried to label it as fake news. It's a satire site. I forget whether it was BuzzFeed or the Daily Beast, but it was one of those fake news sites, appealed to Twitter to shut me down because I was laughing about and reading a Babylon Bee satire site. You know, when Elizabeth Warren was doing all of her Pocahontas stuff and did her DNA test, said, oh, well, Hillary Clinton came out. This is the Babylon Bee satire. Hillary Clinton did a DNA test, and it found out that she was not 100% alien lizard DNA. She was only partially alien lizard DNA, and she was trumpeting those results, right? That was the satire piece. And I talked about that. And so it was either BuzzFeed or Daily Beast said, look, he's saying that Hillary Clinton is a space alien. Shut him down. He's fake news. They said that about Babylon Bee as well, the satire site. They don't recognize satire site. Yeah, satire is fake news, but maybe it's a little bit more genuine than the stuff you find on BuzzFeed and the Daily Beast, which is why they feel threatened by a satire site. Anyway, he said it just keeps happening, and it seems to only happen to conservatives. So what is this latest comic strip that they took down? We'll have that for you when we come back. Stay with us. You will not believe what they shut down from Instagram, a Facebook property, talking about abortion. We'll be right back. Stay with us.